Hey, good morning. Who's with me right now? What's up, my people? How are we all doing? Welcome. You see who's in the chat. We got somebody with us already. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some very interesting things today. Hopefully, I'll be able to do a show from the laptop too later. Right now, I'm actually cleaning out my office area. Got all my crystals that I'm organizing. Oh, there we go. We got people in the chat room now. Here we are, people. So today's topic is very, very interesting. I mean, I've been going through the series of all this, and I literally, to break this down for people to grasp, right? So I had certain experiences when I was younger, right? Certain things that happened to you, like I had a serious operation, like a near-death experience type thing, when they literally had to operate on me to save my life. And I remember right before I woke up on the operating table, an experience that I had, right? Where I was like drifting inside of this watery, funnel, literally, right? And it was like I was looking above the earth inside of this watery tube or wave, and I had to level myself out. Good morning, Anna Tackle. I had to level myself out like I was in the bubble in a carpenter's level, right? And I've talked about this for many, many years. And when I leveled myself out, like I was the bubble in a carpenter's level, I was literally like standing in this wave, right? Literally standing in this wave, suspended in space. And when I leveled myself out, like I had to level my arm, like a bubble in a carpenter's level. That's the best way to describe it. When I finally was level and standing there level, suspended in the air in this watery, even though I wasn't wet, it was like a wave in space, right? A wave of light, if you want to say, right? And when I leveled myself out, I woke up on the operating table. And I remember even saying to the nurses, like, where did I just, like, did you guys just have me in water? Like, what was going, and they were telling me I was dreaming and all of this, that, they had to do a serious operation on me, because I blacked out, because the blood flow and everything was stopped. They had to operate on my testicle. In fact, I talked about this before. I had a serious injury, and what had happened was a black tissue was forming, and it cut off like the blood flow and the oxygen or whatever, and I passed out trying to go to school the next day. The injury was the day before, and I was begging my parents not to bring me to the hospital, that it'll get better, because I just got hit in the nuts, right? So the next day I tried to go to school, and I had blacked out literally trying to go to class. And I don't remember going to school or anything, but I remember right before I woke up on the operating table. And I had certain experiences after that. It was like that opened up something psychologically, mentally, biochemically. I had a hypersensitivity to light now, certain lights, right? And it took me many, many years to understand it. And until I started, well, first I had already had an interest in mythology, cosmologies, and things like this, right? So paranormal, all that, for years. I already had interest in all that, right? And various experiences that I had knew that existed, right? But until the last few years, where I started, and like if you go through my videos prior to this year, like the last few, you can see my work with me trying to process certain information that I've been reading, that I've been going through, because all of my experiences led me to go to the ancient writings, right? The sacred, mystical writings of all cultures, right? So when you start to go through all these writings, right? And then I started to go through plasma, astrophysics, comets, different things like this, right? So first, just having a background in mythologies and the ancient writings, for doing it for many years, I started to get, you could say, like spiritual signs to read certain things, right? Good morning, Jessica. And I started to understand that when I was creative, like with my music, my poetry, songwriting, things like that, there was an unseen force around me that if I really let everything disappear, like just be in the moment, explore my free will and my creativity for that moment, like if I would pick up the guitar and everything else would just disappear around me, time, worries, stresses, all of that would just disappear. What was unseen prior started to become visible telepathically, and even sometimes around me in nature, things like this would seem to be fused with what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. Like a plurality of everything connected, especially when I was being creative. Sometimes it would come out of nowhere, my mind would wander, and I'd be thinking about nothing, and boom, something would hit me as well. But for the most part, it would be when I was creative, when I was exploring my free will, creativity in my mind, right? Because that's where you have free will, is your thoughts. When I was exploring that creativity is when I realized that higher information can come in as well. Also, you can have all sorts of things that come in, and bad, good, and it's depending what's coming out of you is what's going to get polarized towards you, right? So over many years where I started doing interviews, radio shows, you know, a lot of it, if I listen to it now, you could see that I was trying to find the answers right in the videos, right? But now, after I started looking more into how the universe works, plasma, astrophysics, things like this, right? Just astronomy in general. And then I already had like 30 years of reading mythologies and things like that. Once I picked up things like bacterial genetics, plasma astrophysics, quantum physics, things like this, and I started spending time in each area to get just familiar with the basis of it, which has taken many years, people. Then I started to see the incredible connection, and I realized how the past, it was all about spirituality and science fused together, right? They're fused together as one. Nowadays, we keep that completely separate, and that's one of our biggest points, you know, that where we go wrong here. Because in Vedic knowledge, even in ancient Egyptian, ancient Near East, Japanese, everywhere, you know, spirituality and the sciences are fused together. They're one and the same, right? They're completely fused together. And you'll see the interesting poetic metaphors with all the secrets of the universe and nature right in the ancient writings. And the most ancient that we have on the planet today, of course, that we have surviving is Vedic, right? Vedic, right? The ancient Vedas, and the oldest of the ancient Vedas is, of course, the Rig Veda, right? And one of the most incredible, profound answers that they give you about the secrets of nature and the universe in the Vedas is the connection between waters and light, between the light and the waters, which many scholars, of course, and academics, you know, the academic community, they associate that only with light and waters mostly on Earth. But in fact, it has to do with the cosmic light and the cosmic waters, and all of that is vividly explained not only in the sacred writings, but in plasma astrophysics, right? They're one and the same. All the sciences that we have today is explained already in the Vedas thousands of years ago. And plasma astrophysics. Plasma, first of all, is like the fourth state of matter, right? And in plasma astrophysics, they'll tell you that 99.999% literally of the mass of the universe exists in the form of plasma, and the universe is mostly operating on incredibly powerful electromagnetic forces that all come from suns and stars, right? And these suns and stars are flowing like rivers, right? And the old way of looking at the sun is now very archaic, right? Of course, our sun in our solar system is our closest star, right? With many people, or most will describe in science in the past as a hot ball of gas, right? That's made up of mostly hydrogen, right? But in actuality, it's sort of true, but it's actually so hot. And you can get this right on NASA's website, right? They'll have this quote that the sun is actually it's so hot that most of it is plasma, right? Most of it is plasma. Actually, almost all of the gas is actually plasma, the fourth state of matter, right? And even now, like, you go look on the NASA's website. It says that. I can find it to you. I have it quoted, right? And in plasma astrophysics, the very face of the sun is seen as basically a plasma sphere or a plasma star, right? And a plasma star is energized at its surface and it's externally powered, right? A variable star in solar activity and radiation, right? So that is really incredible, because even in the Vedas, they talk about how the language of Sanskrit, right, was formed from the sound of Shiva's cosmic drum. And when you think about the face of a star or sun, it looks like the face of a drum that's held up, right? And a drum is energized at its surface and externally powered. Isn't that incredible, right? And they even said, like, you know, that's incredible. That's incredible just right there, right? And the tackles in the house. Good morning, right? So, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that, I mean, it's just incredible when you look into the Vedas. But the archaic theory of hydrogen gas suns, you know, when sunspots reveal the sun to be dark below its surface, that's you know, when that happens, this is when we see that's when evidence starts to present itself that the sun is a surface-powered plasma star, right? And I wrote a couple of notes here so I can actually say it where people can understand it, that they don't have a background in plasma astrophysics, because it's most people that are writing books on mythology and the Vedas and all these other things, they don't have a background in plasma astrophysics, or they don't look at things like that, so the people aren't making the connection. But all the weapons of the gods, all the names of the gods, they all have to do with cosmic and solar phenomena. I mean, look at here. Check this out. These are all the different names. I mean, in the Vedas, the most names of any god is, of course, the sun god, right? They have the most names of any god, right? Let me see here. But just a few of them I'll give you of the sun god. And you could see that it all has to do with real sciences of the sun, right? And just the reference of what they're doing, and like how they're called, like some of the names of the sun god, right? For Vedic Hindu, and just Vedic deities, right? Surya is one of them. Surya is the one who sets everything in motion, the most common name for the sun in the Vedas, right? So that's incredible. It's saying this is the god who sets everything in motion, right? You have Savita, who it's the power of higher evolution and meditation and inspiration, motivation, life force, right? Then you have Aditas, which there are a whole class of different Aditas. It literally means sun god, right? It's called the unbounded light, the primal intelligence. Incredible, right? And then you have Mitra. Everybody knows later on with Persian and even Roman, Mithra, that comes right from Vedic. Vedic, you have Mitra, right, who is the divine friend, the Lord of compassion, right? You have Varuna, who's the divine lord, the lord of the cosmic waters, the solar ocean, right? The giver of solar wideness, they talk about, right? Varuna is literally shown holding the Varuna Pasha, which is the coronal mass ejection loop, right? It's incredible. I'll show you, if you guys can even see some of the descriptions of Varuna, or even Ganesha here. You see the coronal loop? These are weapons of Ganesha and Varuna, right? So all of the technologies in the sun, all of the sun's capabilities are held in the many hands of the gods, right? And the gods' swirling hands are the many attributes of the rays of the sun. And you see the many hands of the gods, and they're each holding a specific item in each hand. These are different attributes of the sun, right? And one of them happens to be the coronal loop, which is called in astrophysics solar prominence, right? So those are the solar prominence, and I'll show you what it looks like in plasma astrophysics, that loop that I just showed you. And we're going to go deep here today, actually, really deep. So let me show you what the solar prominence looks like. And you know, all the gods, like Zeus in Greek, all these different gods, they're all connected to also like being a sun god, but also storm gods, right? And in plasma astrophysics, lightning, hurricanes, all of that is connected directly to the flow of plasma, all of that. So they're all incredibly connected, and they describe it in the ancients so well. And you have to be a spiritual initiate or adept, or have some of that in your genetic memory to activate this knowledge. And I was guided to look towards this stuff, literally, right? And you can see here, hold on, let me get to, let me just get, this is a book on plasma astrophysics. Anthony Perrott, this is a book by Anthony Perrott, a scientist. So if anybody ever wants to get this book, it's by Anthony Perrott. Okay, so, hold on. Wait a second. I'm better off just looking at the glossary real quick. Yeah. Wow, you guys are going to see something in a next thing we do here today is another thing that's going to blow your guys' mind. So this is what's called coronal loops or solar prominence. You guys can see that right there, right? That is the loop that I showed you that Ganesha is holding. And, you know, you'll find this actually on Earth as well, like these electric arcs, right? If there's a switch failure on a transmission line, like you guys have seen those very large electric transmission lines that we have. Sometimes if there's a switch failure, you'll see those arcs of electric arcs, right? Well, that is happening by accident from a switch failure, but on the sun it happens naturally, right? It happens already naturally, and it's looked at as solar prominences, right? So you guys can see this. That's solar prominences, a solar prominence, right there. Right, and that's the many loops that you're seeing held by Ganesha, Varuna. This is a very small picture, but you guys can see this is a very famous picture of Varuna here. Right, and Varuna is in his hands is holding that golden noose in one of his hands, right? Double golden noose. And that's called sometimes the Ankusha, the Varuna Pasha, the Pasha. And basically what that is doing, it's a weapon of the gods that's talked about. It can even, it's a golden lasso that can lasso souls and pull them into the celestial waters, right? It's incredible. Incredible imagery. just insane, right? And you got all these different symbolisms that are going to blow your guys' mind, like with horses, bulls, cows, all wolves, the golden wolf, honey, right? You got honey is this golden nectar of life, right? This is all references that have to do with solar activity, solar phenomenon. When you have the horses, those are the stampeding force of the solar wind riding on the solar chariot, right? The strong horse, right? And when you have the spotted cows, I mean, literally in the Vedas, right? See, sunspots is what generates different rays of the sun, these different things from coming from the sun, right? Well, the spotted cow giving off its milk of the universe, right? That's incredible symbolism. And in the Vedas, the literal Vedas, you guys, I'm not making this stuff up, look into it yourself. The literal great Vedic wars literally was over the sun. It was over the rays of the sun, which is the cows. They describe it as the cows, which stands for the rays of the sun. And it's about extending the light and achieving immortality. This is the Vedic wars was over this, over the knowledge and constant information that's coming from the sun, how to harness it to achieve immortality and to recreate yourselves in the plasma waters, attracting different particles. And I think I was literally in those waters for a moment when I had that near-death experience, right? And it's been imprinted on me, and it's been a life. I had to go through many trials and errors, right? Even now today, some of the biggest problems you face in life are being presented to you right when you're achieving your biggest breakthroughs, right? And I have some of the biggest obstacles I've ever had in my way right now today, people. I just don't talk about my personal life on here, but there's a lot of things that's going on, right? And it's incredible that usually it has to do with people that are in your own blood, right? So, and plasma is the lifeblood of the universe. It literally is. They describe it in plasma physics the same way they describe Varuna being the solar ocean and Vayu being the solar wind. All of this is intimately described in plasma physics. I mean, the sun, it not only has electric streams flowing, right? They're flowing rivers of plasma that power everything, right? Including the synthesis of the atomic structures that formed our world. Space isn't empty out there. When people think it's like all that space is all that empty, it's not empty space. It's just that you can't see it until you're at different spectrums, right? It's teeming with flowing rivers of plasma. The evidence is everywhere we look, as far as any instrument that we have can see. Plasma is the flowing lifeblood of the universe. It's everywhere and it powers everything. Plasma creates galaxies and powers every star within. And they describe it intimately in the Vedic writings, in all the ancient Adept writings. Even when you see Akhenaten in the 18th dynasty, who changed his name literally to mean the intelligence of the rays of the sun. That's what Akhenaten means, right? So it's not the Aten, the solar disk itself he was worshiping. It was what's coming off of the sun, the information, the intelligences that the sun is sending. The sun is constantly sending intelligences, and you'll see in petroglyphs, in carvings, you know, they're completely right. Somebody came out in like 2015 and talked about how the Squatter Man petroglyph looks like a plasma event. I mean, it describes plasma. Not only does it describe plasma, but I've actually got it on video at my the megalithic site that I go to. Certain light phenomenon has plasma phenomenon. Now, let me show you what I mean. Somebody go look up, pull up. When I'm home at the laptop, I'll do it for you guys better. But pull up the Squatter Man petroglyph. It shows you exactly what happens with certain. Here, I'll show you. They show you incredibly. This is gonna blow your mind as well. This is one of the most incredible. This is the model by Anthony Perrott. And let me get a bigger picture. That's a little one that's right here. I know there's bigger ones in here. Here we go. Check this out. So, you guys can see this model by Anthony Perrott right here, which shows the flip ring and the choke ring. This incredible right here, you can see in petroglyphs. You can see it in crude versions of it in Sumerian writings. You know, and when you see a winged creature holding a basket, this is not what you guys think. That loop of the basket is the coronal loop. And it's what it's carrying, the plasma and the information that it's carrying to the intended target. And the wings on that creature is representing the solar force, the solar wind traveling. Right? When you see the winged disc that comes from Vedic, but it goes down to Persian and Assyrian and all these different cultures. That is the force of the sun's solar wind force. It's much more, it's not primitive symbol. It's very advanced. Very advanced. And these Asura Deva clans had wars over the knowledge of stars, right? Because not just our sun in this solar system, that's just our closest, but all suns form these interconnecting rivers. And they talk about the confluence of 7 rivers. That is all happening in the cosmos. That's not... See, scholars ended up naming rivers in India after rivers in the cosmos. So they try to match it up, but they don't really know. Scholars don't really know what the Saraswati River was, because originally it was a cosmic river, right? And when they talk about even the menorah, when you see the menorah, those 7, that is... right here in massive plasma events. The menorah is like seven of these lined up, right? It's a massive plasma event that they were witnessing, right? It's all of that has to do with 7 rivers, right? 7 rivers, and it's about a confluence of those rivers overflowing into planets, right? Those plasma rivers, they merge together and they overflow. Right? And our magnetosphere is a swirling vortex of plasma, literally formed by the solar wind. And it's communicating with the coronal mass ejections. That's what unlocks our magnetic shield and lets gamma ray light and all this different light come in, right? Even the blue star Kachina we'll get into, because that, to me, I'll give you guys a little clue. I've talked about it once before. I've decoded that blue star Kachina prophecy to be a blazar that's coming towards Earth. What's a blazar? A blazar is a supermassive black hole ejection of gamma ray light that's pointed directly at its observer, which means directly at Earth, right? So when this happens, when a blazar, massive gamma ray light blast, like biggest thing, quasars, think about a blazar, right? It's like a big bang explosion of light, right? It's a cosmic stream of light that when a blazar is starting to head towards its observer, the light will change from red to blue. And it will become visible because of that. The blue star Kachina talks about how when it takes off his mask in the plaza, right? That's talking about a star or a gamma ray burst becoming visible that was previously not visible. Right? Taking off his face in the plaza. It's a star revealing himself and changing from red to blue because it's coming at Earth. And that cosmic light won't affect the ones that's been doing mantras and hymns and dances to the sun. This is why they've been keeping these mantras and these certain hymns to the sun, to keep an evolution with nature. We're no longer harnessing cosmic energy to harmonically evolve. And you can see in the early Vedas, they were still doing that on Earth. It wasn't until the later Vedas where things changed. But in the Rig Veda, things were still flowing the right way, and then it changed. There was a war over the knowledge. And the series that I'm writing, that's why if anybody out there wants to be a supporter of my book series or of my work, because not only am I doing this great work, I'm also building spiritual devices, physical devices, cosmic devices. That's ancient technology as well. You know, the copper tensor tools, and even the copper that I wrap around crystals, I cut that to the royal cubit measurement, and then I twist it, right? And I'm using the same kind of technologies and things that people should use to communicate with nature again, to build a shield from all the bad things around us, right? And to start to tap into the information that's coming from nature and the sun and the universe again. And that's where copper and crystals come in, right? So between my work with that, I'm definitely looking for someone for me to expand, or maybe be a backer of my work, because it's very hard to even do all this. So please, if there's someone out there that is looking to, to join forces and you have the means, definitely contact me. This is very important work that we're doing here, and I give the information freely. But if you want to support me to go even deeper, you go to my patreon.com/themysticalspiral, and if you want copper tools that I make or crystals, I have the world's most ethically sourced, highest quality crystals that you could find. And it's taken me many years to get crystals, gems, stones, and the copper that I use. So you can get that at themysticalspiralstore.com. Let's get back to this. Now, when you have all these different names of the sun god as well, I mean, check out Varuna. Varuna literally is the solar ocean god. He's the god of the ocean, but when you really look into it, it's the solar ocean, right? So let me show you first of all how Varuna describes. Well, here, it's one of the oldest, first of all, gods in the Hindu pantheon. Varuna is usually in the ancient Vedas, he's ranked at the highest. The peak of his powers was in the old Vedas, and he was the king of all the gods, the guardian of all the gods, and the sacred laws, right? So it's talking about how it literally is keeping the harmony of the solar system. He's the god of the universe that oversees everything, right? And it says right in the writings that Varuna makes the sun shine in the heavens, right? His breath is the wind, right? It's talking about his breath is the solar wind. And his supernatural power that they call Maya causes the rain to fall, the rivers to flow in the cosmos and on the planet, and it sustains all creatures, all of this, right? And he's sometimes depicted as a white or golden god with 4 arms who rides on the crocodile, right? That's called Makara. Now, when you think about crocodile references, you got to think about when you have these references of animals that they use, and humans, they're giving you attributes as symbols to make connections, right? So when you see something, even like a hawk, right? A hawk is the sun because it sees everything. It has its flight, its solar wind flight, right? It travels, like it sees everything. It's like the sun. It sees everything. There's no, like the hawk, there's no escaping the hawk's sight, right? The hawk sees everything from above, and it's got its solar wings, right? So even, and when you see, like even in the Pasha, when they talk about it, they said that it's a golden noose and it moves like snakes. That's exactly how they describe the plasma. Like even look, I changed the conversation before real quick, but when I mentioned Akhenaten earlier before, you see Akhenaten in his famous depictions where the solar disk has these arms coming down, right? The rays of the sun are actually arms with hands on them, and it's handing down a coronal loop to its solar king, Akhenaten, right? And it's his solar dynasty, right? I mean, it's showing right there. It's incredible, right? So all of these, Vishnu, Indra, Indra is also the supreme lord, is often a name for the sun or higher light, right? And even relates to the atmosphere and moisture and all of this thing. Same with like Shu and Tefnut in Egyptian. All right, this is all talking about solar wind and plasma. All of this, man, it's really incredible. And to me, the Vedas has more of the answers, right? And everything that you see in the Egyptian comes right from the Vedas, basically, right? Right? And sun gods in the Vedas are called son of the suns, right? This sun god is the one creator and lord of all the worlds, the son of suns, right? The god of gods, the light of lights, right? The Veda invokes the sun in various forms and its various characteristics. Every sun out there, every star has various attributes and characteristics, right? And this is the basis of astrology, right? And it's literally, the Veda invokes the sun god in various hymns and mantras in various forms, and it's a provider of spiritual nourishment and light, and it stimulates our intelligence, and it guards over our spiritual life. These, there's all these different Vedic forms of the sun god, and there's 7 or 12 sun gods, or aditas, right? They represent the 7 rays of the sun, or the 12 months of the year, right? And I even wrote down in my book here some measurements that I don't have that notebook with me. Oh, yes, I do. Check this out. Check this out. So even the Great Pyramid of Giza, most people talk about certain alignments that they have, but I don't hear many people talking about the alignments that it has to the sun. So I wrote down Giza's pyramid connections to the sun, right? And I'm talking about the Great Pyramid, right? So some measurements that you might not realize about the great measurements. Justin Shades, good morning, right? Keeping the shades from the sun. Remember, you guys, you can also donate below in the super chat. You can also ask questions, right? So guys, right, there's the Great Pyramid measures, the measurements correspond directly to the sun in incredible ways, actually. The length of each side of the base, right, is 365.2442 cubits, which is exactly the number of days we have in a solar year, including the extra day every 4 years, right? It's incredible, right? Now, they have what's called the gradient, right? The gradient is, and I'll explain what a gradient is. The gradient of the Great Pyramid is 10 to 9, which means for every 10 feet that one ascends, one rises in altitude 9 feet, right? So if you multiply the altitude of the pyramid by 10, raise that to the 9th power, and you have 91,840,000 miles, which equals the number of miles from the Earth to the sun. It also means that it takes exactly 1,000 pyramids to reach the sun. I mean, that's incredible. It's literally meant as a collector of the sun's rays, the plasma, all of that. You have, especially when you got obelisks and red granite obelisks and red granite dolmens, red granite made of high quantities of quartz and magnetite, right? It's literally, it has its own electromagnetic field. It's connecting, and they're pointing at certain stars. I mean, it's incredible. It's harnessing cosmic energy, collecting plasma, right? Collecting different things from the sun, intelligences. I mean, what's coming in that plasma is information, right? It's information, people. People don't realize that. That's information being sent. Information. And when you see the auroras, all of that is information. Information. That even, you see Osiris depicted as green, that comes right from the auroras. That is Osiris's realm, right? His realm is the magnetosphere, the duat. And he allows the auroras to come in. All right? And in Vedic, you find Osiris in the form of Yama, right? But Osiris comes right from Vedic. Osiris's name is Osiris is more of a Greek name, but it comes from Asar, Asar, which comes from the Vedic Asura, right? Right from that. So it's just a sound shift, basically. I mean, it's even with Asura and Ahura Mazda. It's just sound shifts. It's the same stuff, right? It all comes from Vedic. All stems from Vedic, everybody. So actually going to go live in a little while with the crystal. We got rare gems to show everybody today. We're going to be doing a live auction as well for gems and crystals. The end of the summer, beginning of fall, clearance. I have so much we need to get out. So much stock we need to get out, everybody. So join me in a little while so we could do a huge session of some rare gems and copper. We can even have your own custom pendants made. So check me out, themysticalspiralstore.com. Have a good day and spiral out.